Chapter 194. Back in the game. Now that the informants were removed without a shot being fired, I began to formulate my return. I fully understood that I was re-entering a suicidal game of crash dummies. A game where you couldn't trust anyone but yourself, and even then you had to be careful and trust in your own decisions. It only took one bad decision to put you in a 6x6 cell or 6 feet under. And I was obviously prone to bad decisions, judging from my past. I took the risk anyway because I felt that my analytical skills were sharp. My observations were elite. I understood every word every man spoke or didn't speak. I took my time to choose which connect I would utilize and observed who would be my outlet. It had to be precise and perfect. I couldn't afford any mistakes. I was already at a disadvantage because I was old school to the rules. It was like playing basketball. I was still dribbling, but a lot of others were running with the ball and dunking. It was clear lines marked for out of bounds, yet they were stepping over it with no repercussions. Hold up. You can't do that. That's not how the game is played. You have to follow the rules. There were no more rules. You could do whatever you wanted. You didn't have to dribble anymore. You didn't have to stay in bounds anymore. They were crossing lines and playing out of bounds, and the only referees available had stopped blowing the whistle. Most of the referees were dead or in prison. I could wear the striped jersey and enforce the rules, but I knew I wouldn't last long with these chumps. The striped jersey would only turn into a striped jumpsuit within months. Hustlers were wearing recording devices now. Killers had government agreements now. Drug lords were cooperating with the feds while supplying the cities. They were telling down, meaning they were telling on people that were under them to be able to continue their business. They were telling on people that they supplied while continuing to live the high life. Buy a kilo, get busted. Drug lords send you a money order in jail and may even pay for your lawyer. He using some of the proceeds he got from that same kilo that was returned back to him by the feds. And most men didn't even know it. It was confidential, so we only speculated on who set us up. Half the time we were wrong. Half the time an innocent person was killed for being a rat and probably wasn't. The rat helped you kill a suspected rat knowing that he was the rat that should have been killed. The rat certifications is now bona fide because he helped you kill a rat. A rat that wasn't even a rat. Now that rat about to rat on you. You had to be a certified psychologist to navigate these shark-filled waters. To survive, you had to be a Komodo dragon, a whale, a tiger, or a psychopath. I guess that's me. Re-entering into this battlefield, I knew it would be harder for me to score because I couldn't play this new style of the game. Snitching, killing your best friends, robbing the connect, stealing, scheming on your own homies, being a confidential informant. I knew I was speeding towards a brick wall, but I found a way to rationalize my decision. I would stop the car before it crashed. I set a goal and vowed not to break it. All I wanted was to get back a quick $500,000 to invest into a music label and movies. I needed funding, and seeking investors was a dead-end road. No one would invest for the fear of a possible conspiracy. Plus, it felt like begging, and that wasn't an option. All I needed was the cash and I was finished. So within 2 months after my release from the halfway house, I slammed my foot on the gas. Ecstasy was ascending, so I made inquiries. Coke was booming, so I placed orders. Weed was ubiquitous, so I set up systems. Water flowed like rivers, so I set up boats. I primarily focused on the E because the profit margin on ecstasy was sometimes 20 to 1 without any crushing and mixing, cutting or stretching. The game was still in its infancy, so it wasn't a lot of bluffing and flexing. Plus, it didn't carry a lot of time as of yet. I studied the odds, set my pace, got all the equipment I would need, muzzles and extended magazines. Then I was off to the races. Winner takes all. Chapter 195, Facin Letters.
Die, nigga. Die, nigga. Nigga, fuck you. Yeah, nigga, fuck you. Yeah, nigga, fuck you. Gunmen, gunpowder, gunfire, money in the power, gunshots, gunplay, riding explosions. My phobia is love. You crash dummies. I throw sodium on love. Get cash money.
I made enough money in my first month of hustling to get my wardrobe back in order and furnish my apartment. This is what made illegal activity so attractive. Within 2 months, I had enough to fund the founding of a music studio and record label, Gunplay Records. I also funded the production of an album that I wrote and rapped on. The album name was Facin Letters, which was a penitentiary term meaning all the stuff you were involved in carried so much prison time, you weren't facing numbers anymore, i.e. 10, 20, 30 years. Nah, you were facing letters. L-I-F-E, life without parole or the death penalty. Letters. All the lyrics from that album was written in different prisons and at different points of my mental state. It was aggressive and extremely thought-provoking. I took time brainstorming in solitary confinement to construct some of the concepts on that 16-track album. Writing lyrics was one of the ways I passed time in solitary. The album was well received. Even the young people who were naive to a lot of the subject matters loved it. Some would later tell me that the album guided them in their adolescence. It schooled them to the crud in the streets, prisons, and the government. I then shot a concept video for 2 songs called Nicotine and City Under Siege.
Let me breathe on you. And to survive in these jungles, you need a nudie to relieve stress. Damn, killing was your duty. The 100 is who I fought with, but a nigga only get recognition for what he's caught for, or caught with. It's sickening, dog. We habitual criminals, addicted like nicotine to stick-ups and drug deals. These thugs real to our sins and duties, and moms can't overstand why twins are nudies. Just like Jacks when you realize the answers, it's too late, you died from cancer. Or you a lifer, I watch the smoke rise, tapping on your butt. Don't smoke so many niggas, I'm just stacking up the butts. Inhale, just hoping this'll heal. The sign on my eyes says warning, nigga, this kills. I was in the box pulling jacks just for jacks. I'll jack for his box. Call me Jack in the box. I'll burn your mattress, make you spend your profit on some patches, chase you down to the line and pluck your ashes. I got first-hand knowledge about the smoke, so I let bystanders feel the second-hand smoke. I can't stop it, like all y'all, capitalize off of it, like Newports and ball malls.
I pushed the video onto local TV stations and got a good response. BET refused the video, saying it was too aggressive and violent. I sent the video and album to different hip-hop powerhouse labels in search of a distribution, market, and licensing deal, while moving thousands of copies out of the trunk of my car in a few mom-and-pop stores across the city. Now it was time to switch up the look. My bitch-ass hairline had already began to recede, so I woke up one morning, grabbed a pair of scissors and stared into the mirror. Damn, I'ma miss you, homie. You've been with me through many trials and tribulations. You carried weed, knives, and handcuff keys for me down Lawton and even got caught with it before. And you rode with me through Red Onion when them hillbillies tried to make me cut you off. I told you that I would never cut you off, unless you cut me off first. I hadn't had a haircut since 1992 when I started growing braids down Lawton. When I came home in 94, I wore cornrows, and when I was rearrested in 95, I wore braids that I used to braid myself. Once my brother was arrested in Africa in 96, and he came back with his dreads swinging, I pulled my braids out and locked them up. I was one of the only dudes down Lawton walking around with dreads in my head. We had a good ride. We had some good memories, but now we have reached the end. My dreads were leaving me. They were receding to Sweden, so indeed I had to leave them. They cut me off, so now I was cutting them off. It was now 2001. Snip, 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 snip. 4 months free from prison, I was in the streets full blast. I'm firing my pistol weekly. I was able to run circles around my parole officer and the parole system. They didn't bother me. They were just waiting for me to crash so they could sweep up the shards. I bought a second car, XJ12 Jaguar, V12 Animal, just to ball out. Then I bought a third car, a Toyota Camry, just to lay low. My name was ringing in the streets and in the police departments from the 80s and the 90s, and now it was ringing even louder in the 2000s. I knew the feds was watching. After all, the Benny Lee incident was only 7 years ago, but I didn't give a fuck. I only had one life to enjoy, and living in fear was a no-no. I was finally catching up. I moved into a house and ordered a CL600 Benz coupe with 22-inch custom rims and pipe seats and ground effects. The ecstasy business was extremely lucrative. I was now paying 50 cents a pill and releasing them for $8 wholesale. 100,000 pills was only 50,000, with the wholesale price being 800 grand. I was raping the game raw, leaving my mark on every block. It felt good to be back in the mix. It felt good to be able to take care for myself and others, but it also felt good to see the rats suffering and starving. I went back into the studio and cut another track called Stress under the Gunplay imprint. It was going to be the lead single for my second album. My Gunplay logo that I drew while in solitary confinement on toilet paper was the words Gunplay drawn out in graffiti into the shape of an AK-47. At the end of the barrel where the sights are located was the word Lee's, in honor of the great Benny Lee Lawson. On the folder stock were the numbers 100, in honor of my block, the 100 block of 1st Street, 1st and Kennedy Northwest. I got it tattooed on my inner biceps under both arms to match the AK-47 I had tatted on my stomach while in Lawton. I made hats and t-shirts in a variety of styles and colors and sold them by the boxes. A big ass jail regular.
Big ass chest, smash regular.
I designed a Gunplay sneak and ordered a prototype from China. My homie got a couple pairs designed in New York. While working on that second album, I started exploring the production of a screenplay that I wrote while I was in Red Onion. I bought all the necessary props and looked for directors and producers. I was making money from the music and the clothes, but the streets was my primary income. The streets was my bread and butter, so the streets took precedent. The streets took focus and mine was laser-like, with one goal, to surpass the cash that I lost with the remodeling of the house while I was in Lorton. Then I would ease up a little. I was getting closer and closer to my goal. I was finally happy.